All right, hello everyone. My name is Jalen Jones here with Sarah Krueger of WRL Investigates, and we are outside today and we're going to be talking about intersections, and you've been doing this pretty deep investigative story about intersections.
Yes.
What's going on?
Yeah, so when we do our investigations, they can come through a variety of ways. Sometimes we get your tips, which are awesome, in email or on the phone, and sometimes it's just curiosity of mine. So I was trying to think of stories that would be really impactful for you all, for our viewers, and something that we all do, I mean, pretty much every day, at least for me, certainly every day, is drive. So I wanted to know, what are the areas here in Wake County where you're most likely to get in a car crash? And so I sent off a public records request to the North Carolina Department of Transportation asking exactly that question, asking them if they could send me the top 10 intersections with the most crashes for the first half of this year. Important to note that the DOT does not maintain all roads in Wake County, so we're specifically talking about state-maintained roads. So I got that list from them. Really interesting to me to look at all of those locations. So I can't memorize all of them, but I do have them on my phone if we want to go down the list. But I do remember the first one, number one, was I-40 at Aviation Parkway, which, as the name would suggest, and many of you all probably know, is right by the airport.
Oh, wow. So definitely I drive by there at least multiple times throughout the week. Definitely going to be keeping in mind. We're right here in front of Western Boulevard, in front of the station. NC State's behind us. Is this road, do you know by chance, is this state maintained or is the city of Raleigh maintained?
You're putting me on the spot. I don't think it's state maintained. I mean, mostly the state maintained roads are the highways.
Yeah, okay.
So the top 10 list, I mean, they're very well traveled roads, which makes sense. Like the roads that have more traffic on them would likely have more crashes.
Absolutely.
So yeah, number one was I-40 and Aviation Parkway, and then 2, 3, and 4 were all off 440, like intersections with 440. And one thing to note when we're measuring crashes, or when the DOT is measuring crashes, it's within 150 feet of that intersection.
Interesting, okay.
So yeah, so it's a little bit of a radius around that certain intersection.
So let's get a little bit specific. What defines a crash? Fender bender, little bump, little scratch. I see those, and people, that's what causes traffic, in my opinion. People see those, they got pulled over and things like that. Or is it actual collision? You see the car crunched in a little bit, someone's injured. Is there a level of what decides what a crash is, or like a fender bender? Yeah,
so as far as I know, it's whenever a crash was reported, so likely when police were called out there and a crash report was made. And knock on wood, never really been in a crash, so I don't know. Certainly there are probably some crashes that are like very minor that maybe police weren't called, and the DOT actually talked about that. Like, this is not necessarily an exhaustive list because they might not know about every single crash.
Exactly.
And also an important distinction they wanted to make is, most crashes, yes, for these 10 intersections I have, not necessarily the most serious crashes. So that's a whole separate thing that they do track of, like, which intersections have the most deadly crashes, which ones have the most crashes with serious injuries. That's probably something I'll file a records request for a later story. But for this story, it's specifically just the most crashes. And you mentioned rubbernecking, and that was something that people I talked to brought up as well. Like, crashes obviously mostly impact those who are involved in the crash, and hopefully, not too serious of a crash, but then it impacts a lot of other people too, with the traffic impacts, and a lot of that is people like turning and looking. And one thing that was interesting to me going out to get interviews for this story, I went right to that intersection with the most crashes. So a lot of things stood out to me there. First of all, you get to the intersection. I was filming on the side of the road with my safety vest on, and I mean, everywhere around my feet were like pieces of cars. So yeah, the evidence really clear there that there are a lot of crashes. I went to a gas station nearby to try to talk to drivers about the intersection, and the second random person that I went up to was like, "Oh yeah, I was in a crash there." So it is, unfortunately, common.
Don't you love it when a story pieces itself together and kind of makes your day a little bit easier?
Yeah, because I had actually tried to file a records request for the most recent crash reports for some of those intersections so that I could try to speak directly with people who were the most impacted. And then I was told those are not a matter of public record anymore. So that was a bummer to me. But thankfully I was able to find, someone who had a personal experience.
Well, okay, so we talked about the most crashes. I want you to pull up which one is the most deadly crash. Could you pull that up on your phone?
I didn't request that. I didn't request that this time around. I will in the future. Stand by, I wasn't sure how the DOT tracked, like what kind of data they kept. So in my interview with the DOT public information officer, she mentioned, yes, we do track like the intersections with the most serious crashes as well. And that's a separate list. So I don't have that list, but I probably will request it one day because I file probably like 3 records requests a week. So that'll be one of them.
Wow. Okay. Wow. So guys, if you're watching this video and you're enjoying this, make sure that you like and subscribe to this video for more content that you're not going to get anywhere else. So now let's go in. Is there anything that surprised you in this story?
I think one thing that surprised me, I had asked the DOT, what are they doing to address the seeming issues at these intersections? And I can pull up that email because again, my memory only so good here.
Because we're talking about a lot of data here.
Yes, they have a lot of planned improvements, and they have a very finite budget. They manage so many roads in the state, and they only have so much money, so they have to make tough decisions. But yeah, looking at this list, like I mentioned, I-40 and Aviation Parkway was the #1 most crash site, and the spokesperson told me that the DOT has a project that will construct an auxiliary lane on I-40 between Harrison Avenue and Aviation Parkway. This will give drivers an extra lane. The number 3 spot on the list was I-440 and Glenwood Avenue. For that intersection, she said there is a project that has been funded and is currently in design. It will upgrade the traffic signal to provide pedestrian and signal heads and crosswalks. And then I could go down the list, and we have all this with our web story online. Like I just put everything she told me so that you all could see it. But there's so many improvements planned. So I thought that was really encouraging. And, that's why the DOT keeps track of this data, is because they want to use it for things like improving safety and helping the public as they can. So I guess maybe I shouldn't have been surprised that they are working on so many things. But it was nice to see that they have all those projects planned and underway.
Well, I will say one thing I learned while talking to you is, and then the audience, you guys are going to love this as well. When we're doing these stories, there's different types of data, and you'll be surprised what is categorized as a crash, what's not categorized as a crash. So it's a little bit education for me when I hear the news. What do I need to be looking for, and what you guys are asking for? It's not always going to be ideal. Make sense? Well, this has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much. And as many of you guys know, you guys see Sarah Krueger all the time. How long have you been doing this?
Oh man, don't age me here. I have been here at WRAL 9 years. Halloween actually is my work anniversary, so it's really easy to remember. I've been at WRAL for 9 years. As many of you all know, I was the Durham reporter first for about 7 years. I've been doing this investigative role for about 2 years. And then in the business though, this is the only job I've ever had, is being a TV reporter. And I've been doing it since 2012, since I graduated from college. So like 13 years, and it's fun. And one of the things that I really like about it is that I do get to learn so much every day, and I get a really great outlet for my natural curiosity. Like I just look around and I have so many questions. And so it's nice to be able to seek answers to those questions in a way that can hopefully help other people.
Absolutely. And I say one of the most impressive things working with you for the few years that I've been, your education level, your attention to detail, everything that you want out of a reporter, you can trust with everything that you come out of and put on air and everything as well. So also one last question.
Yes.
What gets you up to do this job? You said natural curiosity. What's another thing that gets you up?
There's so many things I really like about this. I like that I get to be outside so much. I like that I get to meet so many people. And then, at the heart of it all, though, is I feel like we really get to help people. Both my parents had careers in public service in different ways, not in journalism, but I think it was always ingrained in me, like, do what you can to help people.
Absolutely.
And I feel like in this job, we really get to help people, and that makes every day really rewarding.
Well, here's what I'll say. Great interview. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Again, if you're watching this, like, subscribe, follow for more. We switched up the location instead of being indoors. outdoor. If you guys know any intersections that we should look into or like take records requests, please drop them in the comments below. I'll make sure those get to Sarah. And guys, thank you guys so much for watching.
Thank you.